Kind of on.
Krista.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 9 a.m. board briefing session. It is September 10th, 2024. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present and in person. It's exciting. Let's see, and we're supposed to be starting with Deanna Gregory from Pacifica Law Group, but you're not seeing her outline.
There's one person from Pacifica, but they won't be promoted.
They don't want to be promoted.
Oh, I see both over here.
Okay, is anybody? Oh, they're here. Okay, so we will go ahead and wait for Deanna Gregory to join us. We have Erin Bertel with the fair here in Bug Chase, so we will go ahead and just do the fair update. And go ahead and get started here.
All right. Well,
Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. Erin is in the middle of the fair.
I was thinking, I'm trying to, put it together. Thank you for having us.
He's been very busy, so I've offered to take lead on this project so she can focus on the fair. And I did bring with me Maddie Powell, is one of our new landscape architects and project managers. And Julia and Maddie are helping with several of the upcoming projects, including this one at Fair and Expo as well. So we're really glad to be able to assist in that way. And Erin is here to help correct and guide me if I miss a beat. Other than that, we'll try to work through, beginning first with a quick update on the phase 2 and 3 HVAC project that was just wrapped up and completed. And you may recall, I'm sure you've all seen it out there. I think it turned out beautifully. And the HVAC units that are quite large, meeting current codes, have been moved from formerly located in the top of the cupola down now on the ground for easy accessibility for long-term maintenance and operations. Not to mention more energy efficient. The project included a full-on new roof for the entire phase 2 and 3 structure, as well as all new HVAC units, heating, ventilation, and cooling. Next slide, please. And just a couple more photos of this. It's, I believe, a 30-year roof with a great warranty that came with it. So, which is a great introduction. Next slide, please. And working into the new project that we're here to brief you on. And that is additional roofing for the plaza. Some roof replacement and repairs. Next slide, please. So I'll park, that is the front of the plaza that we're referring to here. Next slide. You can see the sloped roof there that we were looking at. And again, this is often the first point of contact for our visitors, hundreds of thousands that come through every year. Significant amount of square footage leading to bays 1, 2, and 3 in the main area, main exhibit hall. And as Erin has there, 15,000 square feet, 150,000 square feet altogether of exhibit space on site. Next slide, please. And now we're looking particularly in the area identified in the beautiful red rectangle is the area that we're speaking to. And it contains a combination of sloped roof as well as flat roof surfaces. The building was originally constructed about 2004. The current material was a 15-year single ply roof that was applied. We've exceeded that, so we've been able to get every bit and more out of the expected lifespan so far. And we are experiencing leaks in the flat areas of the roof. Next slide, please. And oh, I was ahead of the bucket. So we are in need, we're ready, we're excited to complete a proper roof repair and replacement here. And there's been many repairs to stretch the life of it. Next slide, please. Similar to the last project, we brought in our outside expert that has evaluated and provided through the Omnia contract. We're able to work directly with them. The areas in red are in need of replacement, and they tend to be flat surfaces. And we're looking at, again, a two-layer ply system that would last 30 years with a similar warranty, a no dollar limit warranty. Basically, everything would be covered. And then the yellow area, which is the slope roof, is still performing well. But so we're looking to do just repairs on edges there proactively to stretch the life. Will be, I think, a 2-year warranty, but we'd expect to get at least another 5 years out of the main slope portion. So that is the repair that has that we're seeking to complete to again try and prevent any further water damage from taking place and be good to go for many years in the future. And the particular product that they've identified is a really good fit, being an exhibit hall, in that in addition to that 30-year lifespan, it has little to no chemical smell, which will be very helpful as we work around events and activities within the hall. And they are looking to move here later this month if all comes together. Next slide, please. And so our project amount with tax, we're at approximately $718,000. We'll have the exact cents here in the next slide. We've budgeted a 10% contingency, and it's nice with an enterprise fund. Of course, whatever we don't use and don't need, we'll roll forward within the fund and help with future projects. So we're looking to fund this through fund balance within the Fair and Expo budget. And it is identified in the updated business plan and 6-year capital improvement plan. Next slide, please. Again, we're looking to complete this with the Garland Company as we did the prior project. They've come in, they've completed that formal assessment. And again, are working in conjunction with the Fisher Roofing Company. They completed the last project and I think did a very good job. They were really flexible and accommodating at working with Erin and her team around events and activities. So we have a high level of confidence they'll not only do a good job and complete it properly, but they'll be flexible and work again, continue to work going forward. So next slide, please. Again, we're looking to utilize the Omnia contract through the state contracting, similar to the last one. We have a project number that's been assigned. Erin's working with legal and purchasing to put together and take a contract that will take advantage of this in the same way we did with the prior project. And the exact contract amount there is $717,867.46, inclusive of sales tax. Again, working with that Omnia Partners Cooperative. And we've got our contract number there, the PW 1925, that our purchasing works with to execute this. Next slide. And okay, we'll be seeking the board's approval to that would authorize purchasing and Erin to enter into that contract once it's been reviewed and signed off by legal. And the goal is to commence with the work by the end of the month. All goes well.
Questions for? I was going to say I was in the building. Oh, go ahead.
I was just curious what the fund balance looks like overall.
Right now, the number I got this morning is just a little over $4 million.
I think the year-end projected will be well over 2 million at year-end, taking all the projects into account. So we have good fund balance, as Erin mentioned, going into the project.
So I would just say, yeah, having been in the other building when the buckets were all around.
Yeah, usually the first booth on the left when you come in the plaza does include a Home Depot bucket most often, depending on the weather. So that vendor comes annually for the Custer shows. They'll be thrilled not to get a bucket with their booth.
Yeah. So no, I think it's really great. And I'm glad to see the other project, done. And
Oh, people are loving the new air conditioning right now. We actually had vendors complain it was too cold in there and they had to wear jackets over the
Yes.
weekend, so it's working wonderfully.
That's good. So no, so very excited, after our COVID times of not having any fund balance, that you have done a great job of managing that. So thank you.
Appreciate the support.
So this is unrelated to the request, but it was brought to my attention last night by a constituent that in some of our community outreach, we do not use the word county. It's Spokane Fair and not Spokane County Fair. And I got an earful. It is a county event and a
It
county
is.
function. So you might want to take a look at some of the advertising and make sure that we've got county in there.
I will make sure
I
of that.
appreciate it. Thanks.
We send you notice it.
Oh, well, I just know there's the website, which I think is SpokaneFair.com.
Yes, so there, we have two websites going essentially, but yeah, we can adjust that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm
Appreciate you.
excited. Fair seems to be going well, so.
It is going very well, thank you.
I had my family there last night and they loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
And you?
Okay, so we've been joined by Deanna, so we will then go back to our original 9 o'clock topic. So welcome, Deanna.
Good morning. Oops, there we go. Good morning.
Good morning. So you're gonna be talking about the airport bond resolution.
I am. For everyone who knows me or doesn't know me, I'm Deanna Gregory. I'm a partner of Pacifica Law Group, and we are bond counsel to the county. And we have been working with the county team and airport board team, and now the underwriters over at Barclays and their counsel, as well as municipal advisor and airport consultant. So the team is big and broad and brings a lot of knowledge to the table. We've been working really hard on the documents that you have in front of you today. The documents are substantially similar to what was presented to you a handful of months ago when we came and gave you an overview of where we were at with the airport financing and the
Yeah,
development.
just one
Yeah.
second. So,
Yeah.
so they are not in our packet for some reason, so we
Oh.
don't have documents in front of us.
Oh, okay.
They're in the consent agenda this afternoon.
Okay,
Yeah. They were introduced last week and they should be in the consent agenda.
okay.
Okay. And so this is really just a follow-up on the presentation that Randy did last week. We thought it might be helpful before the consent agenda was considered today, just to give you a little more of a background, just to follow up on how these documents work together. And because there are two resolutions on the consent agenda today, and they and this is I want to say this is a very significant milestone, which is another reason why I personally thought it was a great idea to come today to present these, give a little more of a discussion about these documents today, because the team has been working very hard on these for, I want to say, a couple of years now. So we are at the point where all the checks have been, the boxes have been checked and we're moving forward with the financing. And so what you have on your consent agenda today is not only just conceptually speaking, the resolution that authorizes the upcoming bond issue, but I think really importantly, and what we wanted to just bring to everybody's attention is that the documents authorize an overall borrowing program. The way that the airport has been created is that bonds are issued by the county, and a joint resolution, which this commission has already approved, needs to be approved by the county, the city, and then to allow financings to go forward. What the documents that you have on the consent agenda today also bring to the table is a more robust process and borrowing program. for bonds to be issued by the county for projects of the airport board. So the two resolutions, one is a master resolution, and that is really with the meat of the overall borrowing program. Bonds issued that are payable from airport revenues will be issued going forward under this master resolution and pursuant to a document that's attached as Exhibit A, which is the airport revenue bond agreement. So those two documents work together. The master bond resolution is the agreement between the county and bondholders. And then the airport revenue bond agreement is the deal and the agreement between the county and the airport board. And so those working together authorize this plan of how bonds will be issued going forward. The second resolution is the series resolution that authorizes this first series of bonds in the amount of not to exceed $150 million for the Trex project and other projects that are listed out within that resolution. So it's a big and exciting day for airport improvements and for obligations by the county to be issued on behalf of the airport. And going forward, let's say in a couple of years, in the event that the airport needs to have financing issued on its behalf again, all you'll have in front of you is a series resolution. These other documents will, the goal is to have them stay in place and to continue to operate in a master or an overall umbrella type of a way. So that's why you have two resolutions on the consent agenda today. Both were introduced last week. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we wanted to make sure everyone had that background.
Okay, so it looks like yes, those were attached last week to last
Yes.
week's
Correct.
agenda. And then today, so it's resolution 4A and 4B. So 4A is the master agreement resolution, and it looks like 4B will be the supplemental resolution for the
Correct.
current bond
Correct.
issue.
Yes, and so going forward, like I said, the goal is, unless we need to make amendments to the master resolution, the goal is to just have a series resolution going forward. So this process should be, knock on wood, much more streamlined. And that was part of again, another one of the overall goals was to develop and put into place a process where projects will be proposed, and then the financing be proposed by the airport board to the county, and then the county takes action to issue its bonds for projects of the airport board. So all these documents work together as a nice little puzzle.
So in the future, it would just be what's
The
section-
series, just the series resolution, correct. So the other documents just establish the overall program.
Can you just kind of describe the key parts of that program overall?
Yeah, you bet. I'd be happy to. So under the airport revenue bond agreement, that's the document that's attached as Exhibit A to the master bond resolution. And that is really like it's the business deal between the airport board and the county. So when the airport is in need of county bonds to be issued to finance its projects, that document lays out the process by which the airport board makes that request and gives the direction to the county on what those terms of the bonds should be, and also requires the airport board to adopt a resolution, which it has done in this case for this upcoming bond issue. But I think as a key point of that is that it really establishes that process of giving that information to the county. And so the county can then move forward with having that insight and that information of what type of financing, how much of the financing, what the project is, all those things are laid out in that resolution considered by the airport board. So the county can then move forward and make decisions. And then once that airport board resolution is approved, then the county can move forward with its series resolution, which effectively mirrors the airport board's resolution in terms of the not to exceed principal amount, not to exceed interest rate, things like that. But it's really that dialogue that was really important, that was really important to have that process put down on paper to make sure that dialogue is happening. And so the county can get those key information pieces for the airport's projects. The master resolution is the, like I said, it's the kind of overall umbrella resolution that airport revenue bonds will be issued. And it is really the agreement between the county and bondholders. So it pledges airport revenues to the repayment of the bonds. These are not recourse obligations in any other way to the county. They're not a full faith and credit pledge. There's not a non-voted regular property tax pledge. These bonds are solely payable from and secured by airport revenues. And the master resolution makes that very clear. And lays out the covenants of the county and with respect to maintaining that security and source of repayment, that pledge, that stream of revenue. Also sets out the priority of payment. It's a net revenue pledge. So revenues are first used to pay operating expenses and then to pay interest and then principal on the bonds, which is very common for revenue obligations in the state of Washington. And lays out really just the overall covenants for the benefit of bondholders. And then again, looking back at the agreement between the county and the airport board, because so many of the operational covenants really fall to the operations of the airport, we have reflected a lot of those covenants in the airport agreement. So there's a contractual arrangement between the county and the airport with respect to maintaining those revenues, operating the airport, and satisfying the ongoing financial pledges that have been made for the benefit of bondholders. Because really, a lot, like I said, a lot of those obligations are really in the hands of, for all practical purposes, in the airport itself. So it's really this kind of back and forth. It's and how these documents work together that, again, I can't drive home enough that dialogue between the airport and the county really just keeps from the very beginning of a financing through the very end of the authorization period. And then going forward with respect to compliance with those covenants, it really lays out how how that relationship will be established and everybody will work together.
Thank you, Scott.
Deanna, could you also share with the board what, if any, impact these revenue bonds has on the county's debt capacity, as well as how the credit ratings, what entity the credit rating and therefore the interest rates are going to be determined on?
I'd be happy to. Because these are revenue obligations, they have been payable solely from the revenues of the airport as a separate enterprise fund. No, these bonds do not have any impact on the county's debt capacity. There's no full faith and credit pledge, no regular property tax pledge. They're not a general obligation of the county, and there's explicit language in the master resolution as well in the other documents. And that will be reflected in the disclosure documents as well to make it very clear to bondholders so they know exactly where their source of repayment is coming from. And so a quick answer to that first question is no. The answer to your second question is that the credit ratings are 100% reliant on the strength of those airport revenues, because it's a full revenue obligation of solely of the airport. There's no additional security pledged to the repayment of these bonds. When we meet with rating agencies coming up here really soon, the rating agencies will be looking at the overall operations of the airport and the strength of those revenues. And because this is the first, inaugural bond issue for the airport, it doesn't have any outstanding publicly sold debt. It's an exciting time to be talking with those rating agencies, and we'll see where we go. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think you guys do that this week.
Yes, it's coming up.
That'll be great. Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Any others? No, I would just say thanks for all your hard work, because I know it's been a process over the last couple of years to try to get this done, and I think it's gonna just make it, it's a great process
Good.
for the airport, for you, and then for us as the county. So really appreciate all the effort.
Oh, it's been a really good team to work with. It's been really great. So I appreciate everybody's efforts.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, well, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Of course.
And, we will consider the resolutions this afternoon.
Thanks.
Okay, so then that is gonna take us to Matt Zerkor. Have you enter the room, so
Morning.
good morning.
So just have a quick item for you today. It's related to the sheriff's new EVOC track out at the Craig Road pit area on Highway 902. Next slide, please, Ron. So what has come up is Inland Power to service the track needs an easement just onto our Craig Road pit property, so 110 property. So we're just granting them that easement. Pretty typical stuff. Inland Power always wants an easement, and they're not wanting to install their facilities till they get it. That's why the urgency is we're at the point that they'd like to be putting the power in, and we don't have an easement in place, so they were asking us to do that. Pretty straightforward, I believe. Is it a 50-foot easement centered
It's
on
only
the
20 feet.
centered on the red line there? You can see presumably that goes up to their transformer, and we'll service the track. Happy to answer any questions.
Is the easement for overhead or underground?
Underground.
Underground. Okay.
Any questions?
All right, appreciate it. Sorry for the
Great.
short notice. but
Great to get going.
It just came up.
Agenda, okay, perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That's gonna take us to Deb Geiger. Yeah. But we have a lot of miscellaneous things that are popping up, so. Don't get too excited. Good morning, Deb. How are you doing?
Good, how are
Good,
you?
good, welcome.
Pleasure to be here again.
Got a bad day going if this is a pleasure. Holy cow.
It's really not that bad. But thank you. I'm just here in front of you today. This should be really quick. We are asking for approval to enter into a contract with Bartek for our organic material composting. It's pretty simple because they're the only game in town that we can go to. There's a lot of limitations. If we went out of town, we'd have apple maggot quarantine to deal with. Transport would be so expensive, it just wouldn't make any sense. And Bartek puts out a really, really good product. So we're proud to have our compost part of that. So what else do I have to say about it? It'll begin in November on the 17th. Estimated annual cost is somewhere between 1.6 and 2 million. It just depends on how much tonnage we get. And they offered us a package of $47 a ton annual flat increase. We got them to reduce it from $250 a ton to $175. I used you guys for a little leverage on that, so thank you. And then we have a 5-year renewal option. Just because we know legislation is going to be changing, there's going to be some more demands on our region for organics and food waste. And so we kind of want to see what happens. That's pretty much.
So are they gonna be, where are they gonna be composting at? Is it their site out of the county or is it the property here in the county?
No, it's out by the fish trap exit.
Okay, okay. And so are they doing the compost on native ground? Or do they have a pad or something to contain any chemicals or anything that might come out of the compost?
I think the majority of it is on just around. I mean, they have all the permits in place, so we made sure that's part of our agreement.
Okay.
It's pretty neat. If you haven't toured it, I highly suggest going to see what they do. It's a pretty neat thing.
So are they doing
I'm
any
not
kind
sure
of,
if they have concrete under that or.
are they doing any kind of lining or anything? What I'm trying to get to is preventing the possibility of any kind of leaching into underground water is what I'm concerned about. And if their site's sitting over a bunch of basalt rock and stuff, then no harm, no foul. But if it's got easy access to underground water source, I'm a little, just want to make sure that they're being addressing that and stuff. I mean, I'm still wincing for the culvert composting, you know what I'm talking about with the city, and
Yeah.
I just don't want to repeat that.
No, I don't blame you. In fact, I'm not sure of the answer to that, so I'll have
Okay.
to check and see what they're having to set up.
Okay,
And get back to you, but
That'd
I
be
can
great.
just email you
Yeah.
everyone. What we find out.
okay, thanks.
This is contract for on next week's agenda.
Yes, for the resolution, yes.
So we have time to get your answers.
Yeah.
I'll have it before that.
Okay.
Yeah, could you, for the commissioner's benefit, could you just walk through kind of the logistics of how our composting works from the time it's brought to our facilities and then how it gets to Bartech?
Yes, so this is strictly this isn't for curbside, just so everyone, well, it is for curbside in a way, but the transfer stations serve as the transfer point for the organics, curbside and self-haul. And once we have it on our floor, we load the containers through a transport contract that you will see come in front of you as well. I think, we'll just send it to Bartech and the walking floor trailers and, it's just dropped off there and then I can't remember how many days, but they have different stages of piles that they aerate and compost it. Is that what you're asking, Scott?
Yeah, just more of like our logistics of getting it there, not necessarily their operations, but
Yeah.
transport and that sort of stuff.
We load it. We get most of our organics at our Valley transfer station. But we do have some at the Colbert.
So is the culvert, so you're talking about the Colbert transfer station, not the Colbert
Yes,
compost
I'm
site?
sorry, I should call it the North Transfer Station.
Thank you.
We affectionately refer to it as Colbert, but it is the North County
Okay.
Transfer Station.
Just for the benefit of, the city had a composting program and they used to do all the composting up at Colbert until Monsanto and their chemical basically destroyed all the composting and created a huge headache for the city. And also millions of dollars of litigation and liability and everything else. And so that's part of my sensitivity is I had to live through that.
And the smell to the neighbors.
And the smells, oh dear God, the smells. So anyway,
Our office is right there, so
oh.
I have that too.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll get that information back to you very soon.
And one of many contracts that Deb's bringing forward is we're preparing to take on county, actually doing the operations for our transfer stations.
Yes, we're almost done. We can see the finish line.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good day.
Okay, so that's the end of our normal agenda items for today, which is light, but we have several miscellaneous items. So the first one, Scott, you take, this is the.
Yeah, so the Greater Substance Abuse Council, Spokane County, I believe, they have indicated they're intending to apply for a JAG Innovation Grant. This is, and I learned from Heather this morning, that this is the county applies for a lot of grant or JAG grant funding and gets it through the prosecutor and sheriff's department, just normal course of business. This is a new one. And from what I understand, there's $1 million available nationwide. The intent from JAG is to issue up to 7 grant awards of about $150,000 each. So Greater Substance Abuse Council has requested the commissioner's support for this. And Heather also shared with me this morning that both our prosecutor's office and sheriff's office are also going to be applying for this new award, grant award. So I wanted to raise that to the commissioner's attention. Again, it's new, but it is very limited as far as available funds. And we already have 2 coming from Spokane County that are trying to seek these awards as well. So just background.
Do we know what those other 2 grants, like from the sheriff's office and the prosecutor's office?
I don't know specifically what its intended purpose is for, but it would be along with what the what JAG is indicating. It's innovative types of programs, new programs. But I have not seen the awards, so I don't know, or the applications, I'm not sure.
So the asks, the prosecutor, the sheriff, and this one would all, in theory, be competing against each other then? There's not different categories within this grant that they're seeking that are
What I
different?
understand, it would be competing for the same
Okay,
bucket of funds.
all right,
Each of the programs might be a little bit different, but they're competing for the same funds.
okay.
So I'm reading third paragraph. And after it's reading it, I'm still wondering, what the heck are they asking for?
The new ones or the?
It's also for a statewide collection of community voices for safety about current strategies, needs, problems, and I mean, my goodness, we're all gonna get together, we're gonna hug each other. There's no outcome. I don't know what the outcome is. What is it that we're trying to accomplish other than just get together and talk?
On the new grant proposals, I have not been involved, so I don't know what the proposals for the new funds are. I think the previous funds, I know the sheriff's current JAG grant is in conjunction with the city of Spokane. The city police and the sheriff put in a joint application for those JAG funds.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the JAG that we've been doing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I've not yet
that-
been.
we've
involved
got
in
some
the-
tasks that are
Right.
associated with each one
Right.
of the
So I
applications and stuff. So I mean,
I would assume they've identified a new area similar to that to propose use of these funds, but I haven't been involved in the process thus
Do
far.
do we know when they need to have the letter of support by?
I do not know. It was just a request, I think that came into Gina a week or so ago.
I can follow up with the prosecutor and the sheriff to get those details as far as what our internal grant proposals are on and what we're requesting.
Okay, so the application is due on Monday. It's like it's in our packet here
16, yeah.
on the 16th.
Commissioner, you know what I know as far as what they're asking for. I've seen the letter and that's as much information as I have.
Yeah. I think it just came in at Gina and I. So yeah,
I would
Not make the call.
think it would more be in the county's interest to support the county's ask. I'm just gonna throw that, I mean, I'm sure they do great work. I know a few people that are a part of the organization. But I mean, when we have the sheriff's department, a prosecutor seeking the same funds, I think it would maybe be in our own best interest to maybe support the prosecutor and the sheriff's ask rather than an outside organization.
only other thing I'd say is we can bring this up under miscellaneous this afternoon, so we know what the sheriff's office and the prosecutor's office are asking for. So we're, have that knowledge. Cause. Yeah, and then we know what they're asking for. I mean, and they're a great organization, so yeah, I would like to support them, but it's like, but I agree, if we've got internal asks that we're doing, then it's hard to with limited funds. So I think that maybe Heather needs to explain too, what she knows about it, as to how much the funds are, you know, do more of a little briefing on it this afternoon as miscellaneous.
Okay.
So we can fully understand the request.
Yeah, I don't know how much Heather's gonna know about that because they are coming from the prosecutors and sheriff's department. but we
No, but she usually can find what the, like, you're saying it's $1 million across the nation.
Yep.
You know, and just to have that information, if that's, you know, because if it's only $1 million across the nation, I mean, chances of anyone getting this are slim.
It's million and they're looking at 7 awards nationwide.
Yeah, so that would just be good. You know, follow-up information. Commissioner Walter.
So I'm just trying to understand, it looks like, so Commerce solicits proposals. And then you're saying that they compete federally? Cause when I looked for it, this is through it's being managed through the Department of Commerce. So I'm confused if it's $1 million from the state or $1 million nationwide.
Heather says $1 million nationwide, and
Okay.
I don't know who's administering here in the state.
So it has to go up through the Commerce and then they choose what goes to the federal level. So it's a little confusing to me, and nothing I click on the Commerce website opens up in our system here. So
It's for your own safety.
for my own safety.
Yes.
Don't even get me started about that. I'm on the state homeless committee and I can't even get into their system to find the meeting notes. But anyway, but yeah, I think the challenge is, like, they list 9 different categories and it ranges from substance treatment, which Greater Spokane, you know, Substance Abuse Council works on, to you know, crime victim programming, to prosecution in the courts. I mean, it's just a huge range of areas. So, but I would love to know more if I could
I'm sure we
click on
can
the
get some
FAQ and it would open up.
Yes.
I will, at a minimum,
I will get more details if people are available from both prosecutor and sheriff's office. We'll have them come
Yeah,
this
I mean, I think it's important we just understand
Yes.
all the nuances, because they're competing in kind of different areas,
Yeah,
it wouldn't matter, but maybe it is a limited number from each state. I don't know.
certainly.
Pat, I saw you raise your hand. Did you want to speak?
Sure,
to-
I was just gonna add some context. If this is the Edward Beard Memorial Justice Assistant Grant through Department of Justice, JAG, the JAG program, it is a leading source of funding to state and local jurisdictions, but those categories are very competitive. In the past, I think the county or the city has had some success, but it is a limited pot of money with a number of people competing, a number of states and local governments competing for it. It may be that Commerce gets some of the funding from the federal level and then further distribute it to the state. That's probably what Heather could uncover, but the money does flow both to states and to local governments from my past experience.
Thank you. Okay, so we need Heather to look into this more for us, and then we'll brief it this afternoon and make a decision then under miscellaneous. Okay, so that's the first miscellaneous item. The second one is Mr. Schwarber.
This doesn't.
Thanks for coming over. Morning, board. As you recall, Justin Murray and I gave a presentation on the reentry initiative, which is the HCA contract. And it's for the recouping of Medicaid dollars through some of the programs. Through that, we discovered, and at the conclusion of that, you gave me the ability to go back and negotiate and talk with the state of Washington about the contract. In doing so, we discovered that HCA is no longer with DSHS and it's a separate entity. And so part of the process was having it reviewed by risk management. And risk management was desirous of putting in the county standard indemnification language into it. And then I'll let you go ahead and finish the rest of it then, so.
Yeah, so we use a standard mutual indemnification for those contracts and have been used on all of our contracts previously. But HCA pushed back really hard and wants full indemnification on this particular contract when they asked why. Their response literally was, they're not in a position to agree to this mutual indemnification. This may have been different in the past. However, in the current political environment, we will not be changing this section. And that's as far as they went.
Okay, this is all in regards to the 1115 waiver.
Yeah.
Which is a federal law. And we are just seeking to get reimbursed as the county for mental health. Because the state only went after mental health waiver, not the full.
Yeah. And
Health waiver.
And I asked if, I talked with Heather Arnold regarding the other HCA contracts to see if there was any changes, because they're currently in negotiation with some of those. And they have no issues with the indemnification language on those contracts. So this one in particular, not sure why, but that's the response that we received. Ultimately, if the contracts change with the services in the jail and the juvenile, where we are just the pass through for the funding, it's kind of a moot point because it's between public entities. It's a statutory agreement in Washington that there's mutual indemnification. So ultimately, it will become a moot point if those contracts go through. So, but currently, that's the response that we got from HCA.
So my goal would be to have Henny Diaz reviewing it right now, have her continue to do so, and then generate a resolution to that effect, embedded in the language of the resolution, and then hopefully get it for the legislative session for next week.
So with knowing that there's no indemnification, just taking that piece out since HCA won't agree to it.
It's statutory. Is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a representative in the room. We may be having a discussion. Later.
Question.
I know, we'll discuss later, because this is one of those,
It was very interesting.
yeah. And it's just because we're providing those mental health services ourselves versus,
And they don't want to indemnify.
Right.
which we're like one of the only ones in the state of Washington doing that within the criminal justice system, so. That could be another reason why it's
Just-
not gonna make.
Justin Johnson with View Services may have a little more info on that, but I don't want to speak for him. But he may have a little bit more info on why they're doing that right now. So,
From the state.
Okay.
yeah.
And we may want to, I'll talk to Justin then, because we may want to reach out to WASAC. Because I mean, Eric Johnson and I were we really lobbied hard to get this all taken care of at the federal level, and then the state kind of doing their piece. And right now with the change in administration, that will be happening.
All right, thank you.
We need to make it happen, because it's like there's no reason to not be seeking reimbursement for these funds.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And the exposure is low.
Yeah.
For the county on this, the indemnification. Ultimately, the exposure is very low, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny.
It seems like a strange thing to put in an email about a political
I
environment.
know, correct.
I kind of doubt attorneys approve that letter. Wouldn't be consistent with what my advice would have been as a state attorney.
Sure, that's to do with contracts.
Very strange.
You may want to forward that email.
Absolutely. I'll burn a copy. How's that?
No, they already said it, like,
Oh,
I would
true, I
forward it
guess.
to all of us commissioners, just because I'd be curious myself.
Before bizarre.
Yes. Well, yeah. Okay, so next up, I know we have Dan and Arian and Mike Bolts with us to discuss make sure I have my notes from Mike. The line of credit versus the letter of credit that is needed for Broadlink as we look at BEAD funding. You guys all wanna come up? Mike, do you want your notes?
Huh?
Do you want your-
Steel trap. If I forget anything on my notes, tell me.
Well, thank you all for being here. This is like one of those areas that has become, it's like it becomes confusing until finally Mike made it simpler for me, and I've been able to repeat the simpler version. So Mike, your skill at taking complex issues and making it simple to.
I break it down to levels Mike can understand. That's what I do. So if I can understand them, I figure most people in the room can understand them.
Yeah.
So, the Broadlink issue is part of the broadband BEAD money, and you established PDA in Spokane County to get those projects done. We're unique in Washington State. We're the only ones that have a PDA right now. Other counties have tried other things which are not bearing fruit. So there are at least 3 other counties, I think you told me, that are looking at establishing PDA following the Spokane County model. So the Broadlink project, the BEAD funding is federal funding where 75% of the money comes from the feds to connect these underserved, unserved households. Spokane County is 5th in the nation for unserved households. And so if you think about Spokane County and you look at the city of Spokane and Spokane Valley, you go much further north and you go much further south, there's a lot of dead zones out there. I live up by Whitworth. You go much further north past that, there's a lot of underserved houses. Same if you go south past 57-ish and you run some weird holes where there's not connectivity. So it kind of surprised me when I looked at that. So there's a requirement for the Fed funding. So one other thing, the other thing that makes us interesting in Washington State or unique is the state has agreed to pay for the 25% match of the project. 75% federal fund, the state stepped up and said we'll cover the 25%. But then still require a letter of credit where we have to go to a financial institute, or Broadlink has to go to a financial institute, get a letter of credit for the project. Once we put some dollar value to it and some cash flow to it, kind of sharpen the pencil on that and get a letter of credit. We looked into, can the treasurer issue the letter of credit? And the answer is no. They specify that you have to be a bank, and we're not a bank. We're like a bank. But we don't meet the requirements of a federal standing, that's federal definition of a bank. So we can't issue the letter of credit. So we can help. We have banking contracts. We know a lot of banking people. We do big banking stuff. So we will help obtain that letter of credit if it's the desire of Broadlink to do so. So setting aside the letter of credit as a requirement, there's also the cash flow needs and to manage the cash flow. And that's where I think we can step in with a line of credit, which we have done for public agencies before. The airport is the most recent one where we did a line of credit for their construction projects. And during this phasing of the project, they would come to us and they would tap into that line of credit, pay it back. So we're familiar and comfortable with that approach of doing a line of credit for this project. The other thing we've done is we've done loans to the past. In the past, I think the Three Sisters Conservation Future is one of the more recent one. Conservation Future has their own funding source and they obtain land for preservation of the land. There's a good project that became available. It was a bit on the high side. They came to us for a loan. We agreed to do the loan, but we asked that the board backstop the loan and say, hey, if this goes sideways, will you make us whole for the pool? For our participants, for our funds, the money we loan are co-equal funds that are school district, fire district, irrigation, county, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the board agreed to that. So that's a good model. I think there's been more than just Conservation Futures where they agreed to backstop it.
We've done gap funding for projects before. One of them was Bigelow Gulch, where there was a delay in the federal funding, where so they came to us and said, can you lend us money for the project? We got the money coming. We double promise we'll pay you. And we said, okay, so we lent them money. I think it was in excess of $5 million to get a whole building season in because of the delay, which really brought the project forward a year. So we've done similar things at different pieces. This kind of ties it all together. It will, the thought is we'll establish a line of credit through the treasurer's office with a backstop from the board, and then be able to manage those cash flows incrementally should the need arise. So how would the need arise in a project that's 100% funded, 75% federal, 25% state? It could just be a delay in funding. That's what kind of kicked us in on the Bigelow Gulch, is the feds were going to be late. And so we filled that gap. So that would be one instance. I don't think it's likely that the state is going to pull the funding for broadband project, the state funding piece, but that could be out there. I find it highly unlikely. From a state perspective, this has been discussed for years over there since probably 2019 or so, 2018, that they've been talking about this rural broadband projects. And really, COVID kind of brought the exclamation point to the necessity of it. So I think there's broad commitment from the state. We did, I serve as ranking member on the Innovation, Community Economic Development and Veterans Committee, which a lot of the broadband stuff comes through. And working with the chair, we did submit a letter asking for some consideration on allowing county treasurers or the state to issue this letter of credit. It's unlikely that'll go through. So I guess the gist of it is to kind of give you guys a heads up on what we're thinking. The Broadlink has their own board, but that we're working with them to try to establish, number one, help them get the letter of credit and fill that requirement. Number two, get the line of credit lined up with the board support. So we would need at some point, if you guys agree with the plan, to kind of sign off on that. So it'd be a 3-part agreement on that, where Broadlink, we would lend them the money, they would pay us back if they didn't. The board could step in with funds and backfill that. I think having something like that in place would mitigate a lot of the risk associated with somebody wanting to give us a letter of credit if we came in and said, hey, we're all in on this. I think you check the rate at 2% just for the letter of credit. I saw somewhere around 1%, depending on where you go. I think we can do a lot better than that, especially if we have a solid plan in place on getting that. So we spend the money on the projects rather than money on paying this letter of credit. And then, of course, if you tap into a letter of credit, then it gets really expensive because they charge you interest on that. We have always been everybody we've done one of these local loans to have been very, very pleased with our interest rates of the process. So those are our thoughts, and as it stands today. And if you have any questions?
So I'll just add in that I think establishing the line of credit, just having it established with the treasurer's office, and yes, it would be backed by the county. Is how it'd be. Just we don't think we have to use that, but it's that fail safe there. But then that would allow the treasurer's office to help Broadlink go out and get that letter of credit at a very much more reasonable rate.
Correct. And I mean, the number, when you hear I think Spokane County's piece of the federal fund's $100 million. It's like 30-some million from the state-ish, gets us to 130. At no point would the county or the treasurer be exposed to $30 million risk. We're talking about 26 projects, right? So we're talking 300 here, 200 there, and they're staggered over 4 or 5 years. So it's not like everything gets pushed out there at once. There's this big exposure to it.
And Mike and I have talked about trying to go over to talk to the state treasurer, because it really should be a letter of credit that is based on the state, not based on the individual counties or organizations. It really should be, since the state is the one who's putting the 25% up, letter of credit from them. And we're just one of a few states that are doing this. So that's why it's the chances of getting it passed at a federal level is not going to happen at this point.
No, and we're kind of unique in Spokane because we have one of the more active local loan programs too. So I don't think a lot of treasurers, I think some of them are interested in looking at this, but they generally, the way they're structured, their size, there's only a few that are even big enough. So a lot of them don't do the local loans like to the extent we do. So kind of on a little bit of an island here, only PDA and probably the most open, most aggressive local loan program through the treasurer's office. Any questions? Any questions come up? You know where to find us.
Yes. So then we'll have to put together what that would look like,
A resol-
the documents. you know,
We're
From what you need as the treasurer's officer, what you need from Broadlink to you, and then what you need from commissioners as the backstop.
yeah, I think we'll just model it after it'll be a combination of like the airport line of credit with the Three Sisters board backstop. So it'll be a combination of the two. We've done it before. And then after that, it becomes a promissory notes, and then I think keeping the board and everybody in the loop on the cash flow, including us from Broadlink's perspective, should the need arise on funding.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to look at Broadlink, if Broadlink can have that, or if it's through the. So,
Yes.
so anyway, so more to be worked out, but that's the overall
idea.
so we can try to go after the BEAD funding, which we wanna make sure we can get.
100-ish million,
Around 100 million is what we're thinking.
just the best piece.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if there's any models from the other PDAs. Like, do they carry their own debt? Okay,
I believe the
Yes.
Broadlink is set up the same way.
that's what I
Where the
was
county,
thinking.
yeah, charter has their ability to take on debt, and it's not guaranteed by the county.
Yeah, which would be a whole different structure in terms
Right.
of going to market on a debt. It would be more of a revenue type bond versus GO backed full faith and credit commissioner, Board of County Commissioner debt, which is a whole different ball of wax, and we don't dabble in that. So that would have to be a private
Which is why this
placement
is
for that.
more unique.
Yes, I see that.
We wouldn't actually be pursuing this if it wasn't an actual requirement at the federal level. 'Cause
Right,
There
right.
is no debt involved in the project,
Yeah.
but we can't submit an application with this particular artifact. And
There's always one little catch, right? All right. Well, I just appreciate all the effort you put into looking at all the options. So thank you for the presentation.
Okay. And then
Thank you.
we'll follow up if need be on we may be back. It depends on
See you soon.
which direction we go.
That's great. Great. Are there any other miscellaneous items to come before us? Since, do I need to, before we adjourn, are there any executive session? I mean, we could probably just do that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Um,
I can take one.
So, since we are going to continue the letter until this afternoon, do I just continue this meeting? Or just say,
Yeah, that-
state that it will be coming
State
back up?
that matter will be coming back
Okay.
up.
I was curious.
I also have a very quick executive.
Okay, so then we are gonna go into, Pat,
I just wanted to mention that there was a draft budget press release after yesterday's meeting. It was distributed to commissioners. I plan on releasing it. There's no feedback this morning.
okay, thank you, well, I'll take a look at it here quick, and if, you don't hear anything by noon, then.
The one to the press release for the budget roundtables, we are a little more lax on the 3-minute limit on when citizens want to come speak to the budget, correct? And that was probably the only thing that I thought was maybe just striking that one part that.
We haven't had anyone speak, so I don't know that I.
So we're pretty lax on the 3 minutes. So I mean, if somebody truly wanted to come down and talk to us about the budget and they went a little over 3 minutes, I think traditionally we've sort of let them go. I mean, if they want to come talk about the budget, we'll let them talk about the budget longer than 3. So maybe striking that one that one reference to that they will be limited to 3 minutes, so, because we are asking for citizen input on the budget.
Or what we, yeah, what we may do is just strike it. I mean, our rules are
Yeah.
are what they are.
Yeah.
And it's discretion, I think, the chair to change the rules. So it just depend on how many people we would have. There's, you know,
Some are,
100 people.
some are more well attended than others.
So yes,
Very good. I struck that sentence, Madam Chair.
perfect. Okay, so then we have 2 executive sessions. How long, I will let you guys speak to those.
The one I've got is acquisition, lease of real estate under RCW 4230, 110-1B. That will include the commissioners, myself, Chris Anderson, and Randy Bischoff. I expect 10 minutes, no action.
And I have one matter pursuant to under pending potential litigation pursuant 4231-10-1I. That will involve the board, Scott Simmons, myself, and take approximately 2 minutes with no action.
I love it.
2.
2 minutes. You're gonna-
Assuming no questions.
Stanley gets asked a question. Okay, so we're gonna go into executive session for a total of 12 minutes. At the end of that executive session, we will be adjourning our meeting for the morning. I do want to just note that we did have the one item under miscellaneous requesting the support letter for Greater Spokane Substance Abuse Council that will be taking up again in miscellaneous after our 2 o'clock meeting. So with that, we will go into executive session for 12 minutes and see everybody back at our 2 o'clock. Thank you.